7 days. That is the deadline for the US and NATO forces. 7 days is all they have to exit the Kabul airport. They must evacuate themselves. They must airlift the thousands of Afghans who were promised a safe exit. It's a Herculean task. Evacuating everyone may not be possible. All sides know this. So the desperation is rising by the day. The chaos at the airport has become a full-blown crisis. The Taliban are blocking the roads leading up to the airport to prevent Afghans from leaving. The US and its allies are blocking the gates of the airport to prevent Afghans from entering. It's such a sorry state of affairs. Hundreds of people are trying to scale the airport walls to get inside. Many of them ended up falling in a ditch. It was filled with trash and filthy water. You can see these people standing knee-deep in the muck. One of them managed to clamber out. The troops pushed him back in. And this moment really captures what America and its allies have done to Afghanistan. The Afghans wanted democracy. And now they have been thrown back into the ditch of oppression. There is no one who is coming for help. They're camping on the streets, these people, waiting for the gates to open. Their condition is miserable. They can't even get a bottle of water without shelling out a fortune. At the airport, at the Kabul airport, one bottle of water is being sold for $40. One plate of rice costs $100. Listen to this.
At Kabul airport, one bottle of water is selling for $40 and a plate of rice for $100, and not Afghani currency but dollars. That is out of reach for common people.
And the Taliban are just making the situation worse. Our correspondent in Kabul, Anas Malik, today surveyed the roads leading up to the Kabul airport. Men from the Taliban have now installed their own checkpoints and they're stopping Afghans from leaving.
Behind me are the Taliban men who are here to guard and who are here to prevent those who are not with their documentation. To my right, to my left, everywhere you can see are the fighters or the men of the Taliban. Behind me, if my camera person can show you as well, there are scores of people who are lined up, who are waiting to go beyond this point. The Taliban commander over here says or claims that they're letting those go who have confirmed receipts, though that differs with what we have seen here on the ground. People are desperate to leave. People are anxious to leave.
These people have left everything behind to flee for their life. How will they do it? How will they get $40 for a bottle of water? The bitter truth is this: many of them are going to be left behind, even if they have valid visas and documents, because there are just too many people at the Kabul airport right now. A journalist who recently got out of Kabul narrated how his convoy was surrounded by Afghans when he got to the airport to leave the country. All of them had valid documents. Let me read out that account for you. This is what he says. As soon as they saw our convoy, they got up and ran towards the buses. They were showing us their passports or other documents. One man came to my window with wife and child and waved his passport saying, "I have a British visa but can't get in. Please let us on the bus." Is anyone listening to these appeals for help? The US isn't. It is bending to the Taliban's will. Yesterday, the Taliban said the American forces must leave by the 31st of August. They said it was the red line and there would be quote-unquote consequences if the US stayed beyond this date. How did the Americans respond? By accepting the deadline. In fact, President Joe Biden says he wants to get them out before the deadline if possible.
We are currently on a pace to finish by August the 31st. The sooner we can finish, the better. Each day of operations brings added risk to our troops. I'm determined to ensure that we complete our mission, this mission.
So Biden wants to get out by the 31st of August. What about his allies? Well, they are divided. Leaders from the G7 nations met yesterday to discuss the situation in Afghanistan. Some of them want to stay beyond the 31st. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, for one, wants the Taliban to allow evacuations beyond the deadline.
The number one condition we're setting as G7 is that they've got to guarantee right the way through August the 31st and beyond, safe passage for those who want to come out.
The European leaders were trying to lobby America to push the deadline, but they were unable to convince Washington. German Chancellor Angela Merkel says the Kabul evacuation will end in a few days.
When this evacuation mission finishes and the conference does not result in new dates, then there will be, of course, a phase which we are preparing for intensively, where we need to find a way to make sure that even after this deadline, it is still possible to evacuate local staffers and people in need of protection. So in this context, there is also the question of whether a civilian airport in Afghanistan, in Kabul, could be possible. At the moment, we are in intense discussion about this.
Europe is under pressure. It fears that a new migrant crisis is coming. The exodus has already begun, in fact. By the end of July, more than 330,000 Afghans were displaced internally. At least 30,000 Afghans were leaving every week. And the numbers will only grow in the coming weeks. Greece is preparing for that. It has built a 40-kilometer-long wall on its border with Turkey to stop the Afghans from coming. But like history has shown us, border walls don't help. They may get politicians some votes, but they won't stop migration, and they will only add to the misery. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.